Welcome to the Environmental Awareness Training for the Santa Teresa Water Treatment Plant Airwash Pipeline Replacement Project. This training was prepared by Sequoia Ecological Consulting for Overaa and Santa Clara Valley Water District, December 2020. This training is for the Santa Teresa Water Treatment Plant Airwash Pipeline Replacement Project. Santa Clara Valley Water District, Valley Water, is replacing, testing, and improving existing airwash pipelines and their associated work sites. The photo on the right is an overview image of the Santa Teresa Water Treatment Plant. This training will cover nesting bird avoidance and general best management practices, BMPs, that apply to this project in accordance with state and federal law and with the project's plans, specifications, and contract documents. All personnel working on the project, including subcontractors, will be required to review this training prior to beginning work. The contractor shall comply with all applicable federal and state laws, rules, and regulations related to the protection of migratory birds, including, but not necessarily limited to, the Federal Migratory Bird Treaty Act and the California Department of Fish and Game Code. The contractor shall coordinate several measures, including awareness and training of the contractor's personnel on which bird species are protected, their nesting seasons, and seasonal variability. Surveys to determine the presence of nesting birds in the project area, establishment, maintenance, and removal of protective buffer zones around nests, installation and maintenance of exclusion devices, nest prevention activities, and finally, monitoring to ensure the adequacy of the compliance measures. Federal, state, and local laws, as well as valley water policies, provide for the protection of wildlife and natural resources. Some laws include substantial fines and penalties. This training will review some of the general laws which the project will operate under. First, the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, administered by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, regulates migratory birds and their nests. The full text is pasted here. This law states that we must not disturb native migratory birds, their nests, or their eggs. Active nests are those containing either an egg or eggs, young and/or nests used by birds of prey, regardless of the presence of eggs or of young. To determine the occupancy of nests, the contractor shall rely upon the professional experience of a qualified biologist. The California Fish and Game Code also prohibits the disturbance of any native migratory nests, birds, or their eggs. We expect nesting birds to occur in the work area. Birds utilize a variety of habitat and construct nests from many different types of materials. For example, Anna's hummingbird pictured here construct their nests out of cobwebs and lichen. Black phoebe use mud and sticks. Acorn woodpeckers use existing cavities in trees. And hawks, such as the red-tailed hawk, use sticks to construct very large nests. If nests or eggs are discovered within the construction area, stop work and contact the qualified biologist. Biologists will determine if species fall under the protection of the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and will determine steps to avoid disturbance. Birds may nest inside stage equipment or on structures. If a protected species has an active nest on the project site, it cannot be removed per the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, and it may lead to delays in work. Good housekeeping paired with regular biological surveys can help us prevent nests from becoming established on equipment. Nests can also occur on the ground, in grass, or in constructed sock-like nests as shown in the lower center photo. The California Fish and Game Code also prohibits the disturbance of any native migratory nests, birds, or their eggs. During the period between January 15th and August 31st, we may expect protected birds to nest within suitable habitat in the project area. There is variability in the nesting season. For example, Anna's hummingbirds may nest into September. Annual variation in climate or extreme events, such as fires, may alter the nesting season. Which birds are protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act? The answer is all birds native to the United States. This includes the vast majority of birds that you are likely to encounter on site. Although non-native species are not covered under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, some native species closely resemble non-native species, such as rock pigeons. So don't disturb bird nests of any species. If any nest or nesting behavior is observed, report it to your supervisor or the on-site biologist. If an active nest is observed in the project area, the contractor shall notify the engineer and establish a protective buffer zone around the nest. The exact location of the boundaries of protective buffer zones will be established by the qualified biologist and approved by the engineer. The contractor shall install temporary fencing at the boundary of each new protective buffer zone, except as otherwise directed by the engineer. The fencing will be type ESA temporary fence per Caltrans Article 14-1.03. The contractor shall attach signs labeled nesting bird, access prohibited, at least every 50 feet along the fencing. The contractor shall exclude project activities to preserve and protect all protective buffer zones, including existing ones, at all times. When a nest is found on site, first, stop all activities which may harm the nest. Next, contact the engineer immediately. Only the qualified biologist should approach the nest, and only when it is necessary to do so. The biologist shall inform the crew of the nest status, whether it is active or not, and describe steps to avoid impacts. This may include establishment of a nest buffer. Until inspected by the engineer or the qualified biologist, the crew shall establish a temporary buffer zone around any newly located nests. If the engineer or qualified biologist are not available, the crew shall establish a protective buffer zone until they are able to assess the situation. If the nest is found on the ground and it is not a raptor, like a hawk, a 20-foot radius protective buffer zone shall be established. If the nest is on shrubs, trees, structures, or equipment, a 50-foot radius protective buffer zone shall be established. If it is a raptor, heron, or eagle nest, a 250-foot buffer shall be established. The term raptor includes hawks, owls, burrowing owls, falcons, and eagles. Upon review, the qualified biologist may recommend modifications to the buffer zones. Nesting prevention. All areas to be cleared of vegetation may be suitable nesting habitat for migratory birds. The contractor shall perform all necessary clearing prior to the nesting season if it is at all possible. If clearing must occur during the nesting season, the contractor shall obtain prior approval from the engineer. If vegetation must be cut and maintained to prevent birds from nesting, it must be cut to less than 6 inches in height and removed. The contractor shall inspect and monitor bare areas and gravel areas prior to commencement of the nesting season and as frequently as necessary thereafter, and provide deterrence measures if necessary to prevent ground nesting birds, such as killdeer, from establishing a nest. The picture here shows a killdeer protecting her ground nest from predators. Removal of vegetation Trees, shrubs, grasses, and herbaceous plants shall be limited to areas shown on the drawings designated for vegetation removal, unless approval is obtained from the engineer to remove vegetation from additional areas. No vegetation shall be trimmed back unnecessarily, including trees and/or shrubs growing near the right-of-way that overhang onto the worksite. Such overhanging foliage shall be protected and tied back if necessary. Landscaped areas and irrigation systems outside of the construction areas shall be preserved and protected from damage by the contractor's activities. Pre-established vegetation management areas. Some areas of vegetation removal, clearing, and eradication may be established and cleared by the district prior to the first chargeable day. In these areas, the contractor shall be responsible for the continued clearing and eradication of all resprouts. Overview of best management practices. Stormwater pollution prevention plans, also known as SWIPs. A SWIP will be prepared for this project. Best management practices included in the SWIP shall be implemented during project activities. The Regional Water Quality Control Board or other regulatory bodies may oversee the implementation of the SWIP. If fines are issued, they will be paid by the contractor. The contractor shall meet all applicable regulatory requirements to ensure that any discharges to surface waters will not cause violation to the state water quality standards or violation of regulatory permits issued by regulatory agencies. The contractor shall prevent water quality degradation of water bodies and/or of storm drains. Water quality is measured in terms of pollution substances, turbidity, dissolved oxygen, pH, and temperature. Oily, greasy, or sediment-laden substances or other materials that originate from the contractor's operation shall not be allowed to enter or be placed where they may later enter any reservoir, river, creek, or stream. The contractor shall comply with the requirements of applicable permits. The contractor shall implement any additional water quality best management practices and mitigation measures described in these specifications. Cultural resources. Potential burial sites should not be disturbed by active work. If a burial site is unearthed, work shall be immediately stopped and the county coroner and engineer shall be contacted immediately. The contractor shall secure the site and protect human remains from further disturbance. If a potential artifact is discovered, work shall halt within 30 feet of the find and contact an archaeologist for identification and further evaluation. Air compressors and internal combustion engines shall be in good operating conditions that meet or exceed original factory specs and shall be equipped with high-grade mufflers, air inlet silencers where appropriate, and noise suppressors. All mobile or fixed noise-producing machinery and equipment, including package equipment such as fans, cranes, arc welders, air compressors, etc., shall be suitably housed, enclosed, shielded, and equipped with noise control features or muffled to meet the noise limits specified in the special provisions. All mobile or fixed noise-producing equipment used by the contractor that is regulated for noise output by federal, state, or local law shall comply with this regulation while in use. This shall include vehicles licensed for use on public highways. Electronically powered equipment instead of pneumatic or internal combustion powered equipment shall be used where feasible. The use of noise-producing signals, including horns, whistles, alarms, and bells, shall be for safety warning and emergency purposes only. No music system, including personal or vehicle radio, tape, CD players, or the like, shall be audible at the project right-of-way line. Trucks or other mobile equipment shall not use engine decompression, also known as jake brakes, for deceleration on grades where feasible. The contractor shall take all necessary precautions during its operations to limit peak particle velocities from vibratory compaction or percussion equipment so that they do not become a public nuisance or result in property damage. Any equipment causing non-compliance with the noise or vibration criteria shall be removed from the job site as directed by the engineer. The contractor shall comply with all applicable requirements of the applicable air quality management or control district and California Air Resources Board regulations. Idling of internal combustion engines shall be held to an absolute minimum. All vehicles with internal combustion engines shall be fitted with spark arresters. The contractor shall not use any of the listed materials banned by BAAQMD Regulation 8, Rule 15. Serpentine materials that have average asbestos content greater than 5% may not be used for surfacing. Except as provided by law, idling of heavy-duty diesel trucks with gross vehicular weight ratings of greater than 10,000 pounds shall be no more than 5 minutes, as per California Code of Regulations, Title 13, Section 2485. The contractor shall implement any additional air quality best management practices and mitigation measures described in these specifications. Care shall be taken to prevent spillage when hauling is done. Spillage resulting from hauling operations along or across any public traveled way shall be removed immediately by the contractor. The contractor is responsible for all expenses for removal of spillage. The contractor shall control dust nuisances originating from the contractor's operations, either inside or outside of the right-of-way. The contractor shall provide all necessary precautionary measures to control dust and to prevent spillage on public traveled ways. At a minimum, the contractor shall provide the measures listed below and shall also implement additional dust control, BMPs, and mitigation measures described in these specifications. Active maintenance areas, unpaved access roads, and staging areas shall be kept sufficiently moist and watered as necessary, or shall be applied with non-toxic soil stabilizers to control dust generation. Trucks hauling sediments and other loose materials shall be covered and shall maintain at least 6 inches of freeboard. Tailgates of trucks shall be sealed. Trucks shall be brushed down before leaving the site. Paved site access roads shall be swept using vacuum-powered street sweepers when visible soil material is carried onto the roadway. During high winds, the excavation and grading activities shall be watered or the activity suspended if necessary to control dust. Inactive areas shall be sprayed with soil stabilizers or shall be seeded to avoid erosion or dust. Exposed stockpiles shall be watered, enclosed, covered, or sprayed with soil stabilizers. Traffic speeds within the project right-of-way shall be limited to 15 miles per hour. For off-site restriction, comply with local agency requirements. Sandbags or other bank protectors shall be installed to prevent silt runoff to roadways. The contractor shall immediately remedy any spillage and dust nuisance or deficiency arising from or in consequence of the contractor's failure to perform the work. In other words, if a spill occurs, it shall be cleaned up immediately. The environmental training does not include all BMPs required during this project. Please refer to the project specifications for specific guidance related to the following topics. Before beginning construction, all contractor construction personnel are required to attend an environmental training program. The training program will be completed in person or by watching a video at a district-designated location conducted by a qualified biologist provided by the district. Be sure to sign the sign-in sheet at the end of this training to assist in tracking. The project contacts are Margaret Finch, Sequoia biologist and project manager, and Brett Hanshoe, Sequoia principal. Thank you very much for listening to this environmental training. Have a very safe and successful workday.